Let's preview tonight's Spurs Denver game. Then bring in our guest Hector Ledesma as we talk about what could have been.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Scooting up here a little bit. Thank you all for subscribing and checking out Locked On Spurs, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You guys are the everydayers. As always, you can find us on YouTube, Ken's 5 Plus app, iTunes, Spotify. The list goes on and on. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Hey, what are we talking about today? Well, we're going to be looking at tonight's game, Spurs Nuggets. Quickly preview that, and then bring in our guest, Hector Ledesma. We're going to be discussing what could have been with this Spurs team, especially considering that they're playing pretty well to wrap up the season, and then talk about you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans, and what are y'all talking about over at the YouTube page. But first, Spurs and Nuggets tonight out in Denver. Yes, the Spurs go back on the road, and they'll take on the defending champs. Spurs come into tonight's game 18-57, Denver 52-23. Rewinding the clock a bit, the Spurs are coming off a home loss versus the Warriors 117-113. Wemby had 32 points and 9 rebounds. Osman had 18 points in the loss. Zach Collins had 13 points. Trey Jones added 12. Now, keep in mind, the Spurs were without Sohan, Johnson, and Vassell all out with injuries. So who knows what could have been if all those three guys are playing. And for those who are on uniform watch, the Spurs will be in their black Icon Edition jerseys tonight. All right, so as always, we would like to look at the opposition, in this case, Denver. And let's start previewing the game. Okay, so watch out for Denver. They are facilitating right now. They are on an upswing right now. In the last two games, they're recording more assists than their opposition. So they're spreading the ball around. They're passing the ball around. Interesting, though, because they have kind of fumbled a bit. They've lost a pair of games. I think coming off a win right now. But before the recent win, they lost a couple games. So who knows? We'll see how Denver does as far as facilitating. Spurs got to watch that, disrupt that as best possible. Keep an eye on the scoreboard. Denver at home is 26-3 when leading after the third period. So likely the defending champs don't let go of that lead if they're up going into the final frame. Hopefully the Spurs are not on that wrong end of the stick tonight. And Denver loves to feast on teams with a below 500 record. They're almost unbeatable. The Nuggets are 24-1 when facing teams with a below 500 record. That does not bode well for your silver and black. Hopefully the Spurs can be the second team that has an under 500 record to give Denver a loss. Now to switch gears to your silver and black. Good news is the Spurs are going back up in an upswing right now as far as the three line is concerned. The Spurs have recorded 3 consecutive games with more three-pointers made than the opposition. Don't need that tonight versus Denver. Denver's a big team. We know about Joker. We know about the rest of the crew out there, Murray and whatnot, and Gordon. But nevertheless, if the Spurs can continue knocking down their shots tonight, hopefully that will give Denver fits. And look, the Spurs have been competitive of late, and hopefully the Spurs will continue to be doing that, as well as coupled with the three-point shots that are falling. Hopefully, good times for the Spurs at the end of the game. Bad news is the Spurs are on a 2-game road losing streak. So they got to snap that tonight. So that's the fifth and final takeaway right there. Spurs are on a 2-game losing skid. Spurs need to snap that tonight, hopefully against the defending champs. All right, when we get back, we're going to bring in our guest, Hector Ledesma. We're going to be discussing what could have been, considering that the Spurs are playing a lot better to close out the season. We're going to look at what the good, the bad, some missteps, or Hector's going to say there were not that many missteps. You'll see what I mean. And then we're going to be talking about you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans, and what are y'all talking about at the YouTube page. But first, I want to talk to you about BetterHelp. This show episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So if you're thinking about getting online therapy a chance, this is where BetterHelp can come in. BetterHelp will get you on your way to being your best self. And look, sometimes there are bigger things in life than basketball, NBA, maybe even your San Antonio Spurs. Sometimes it's good to get things off your chest and speak with somebody who is unbiased in your life. So it's important to let that out, and that's where BetterHelp can come in. So if you've been thinking about giving online therapy a try, again, try BetterHelp. Look, therapy can be different for everyone. Some of us have big problems, some have small problems. Like as I mentioned, beyond just sports. And look, sometimes life gets in the way and you need to get things off your chest. BetterHelp can even get you going in the right direction, as well as keep you going on things that you're doing right. So it's not just for maybe bad times, maybe it's actually good times, or just to reinforce what you're doing well. So give BetterHelp a try right now. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. You want to visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA right now and get yourself 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Hey, I want to talk to you about Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. If you're in San Antonio, you want to go there right now. They're located at 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. That's in the 281 and 1604 area. They have it all. If you need a latte, they got it. You need, a cold brew, they got that too. You need just a plain coffee, but a good coffee, they got that too. Try their Muslinger. It is their signature coffee drink. And they even have signature drinks like the Alien, which is in honor of Victor Wembanyama. I think you all know who that is. And they have a friendly staff. They have a great menu. They got mini donuts. Recently, they sold out. That's how good they are. And they have the Lightning Bolt series. Now, just a quick heads up. They've changed the recipe for the Lightning Bolts. So basically, they started using Lotus Energy instead of Red Bull. Now, Lotus has similar caffeine to Red Bull, but with 7 power plant extracts, gives you more flexibility, gives the Muslingers flexibility, just create different and new drinks. Look, they still got a Red Bull available, so you want that, that's cool, but the default will be Lotus. So it's even included in the Alien, the drink designed or at least named after Wembanyama. So it's natural caffeine combined with powerful blend of 7 plant extracts. The new and improved Lightning Bolts will keep you powered up all day. And yeah, that just goes to show you they're always above and beyond looking out for you all. They're a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs and a proud community member right here in San Antonio, giving you the best drinks around town. Go to Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, open every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. By the way, when the Spurs win, dollar coffee all day. Another reason to go to Muslingers right now. Follow them on social media at Muslinger SATX. Do that right now. So Muslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. It's the best in town, best in the business, the best drinks in San Antonio. Go there right now because life is too short for bland coffee.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And look who is back, everybody. He is Hector Ledesma, Ballys Sports contributor. Make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. He also helps out Clutch Points on the Spurs beat side. Hector, welcome back to Locked On Spurs.
Thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure.
Not a problem. But by the way, happy belated Easter. By the way, and I have no April Fool's jokes for you because it's past. So you're in the clear, Hector.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good. I don't have to worry about falling for anything. But no, likewise, man. Hope you had a fantastic Easter.
Absolutely. Again, everybody, you see him how we'll list on your screen how to follow him on X. You want to do that right now. He'll tell you what he has going on his neck of the woods in just a few minutes. But first, Hector, the season is winding down pretty fast. Just a little bit less than 7-8 games left, and that's it. That's all she's wrote. But to wrap up the season, it's almost like we're seeing what could have been if things got off on the right foot. And Cedi Osman spoke about it after the Spurs lost to the Warriors, saying he really believes that if the season started today, it'd be a whole other story for this team. Wemby kind of echoes the same thing. The list goes on and on. Players are kind of coming together. They're looking a lot sharper. Is this what should have been? Is this the Spurs team that we anticipated to start the season right after training camp and preseason was over?
I think this is the Spurs team we anticipated. Yes to that question. Should this have been happening earlier? I think that's a double-edged sword, Jeff, because I think you go back to the offseason, right? And remember, even after the Spurs won the rights to draft Wemby, the Chris Paul thing was up there, right? The Damian Lillard thing was out there.
Yeah.
The Spurs get a good point guard, if not a star, to kind of help bring Wemby into the fold, kind of help mentor him, and especially at the point guard position, help his game overall. You look back at that, and the reason they didn't do that was they wanted Wemby to be Wemby. They didn't want Chris Paul or Damian Lillard or anybody else kind of dictating where Wemby should go on the floor right off the bat. They wanted to see where Wemby was most comfortable, let him play, and then go from there. Well, here's the thing. When you do that, your other guys on the team are left to figure things out in a sense, right? Because they're letting Wemby be free. There's really not the structure that you would have had he not been there. It's a different kind of a scenario. So because of that, and because the roster around Wemby is still young, it's still finding its way, and if we're being completely honest with ourselves, is not full of a bunch of number one overall picks. So it's like, oh, just throw the ball out there and they'll figure it out, and they'll figure it out quickly.
Right.
So that perfect storm, along with specifics, starting Jeremy Sohan at the point to start the season, things along those lines. Certain guys maybe not playing well to start the season. Put it all together, and it ended up being the perfect storm of what we saw for the better part of the season. So all that being said, I don't think they're where they are now if they don't go through everything they've gone through this season. So that to me is kind of more of a nuance in terms of, is this what should have been at the beginning of the season? What we're seeing now says yes, but you don't get here without that experience and just actually playing together, the repetition of kind of going with each other and growing up to a certain extent with each other. You don't see, if you don't have that, you don't get what we're seeing now.
Well, the thing too is that Popovich has used this word. I don't know if this is his new word for soft, but he said it a few times this season, immature. And he early in the season, middle of the season, he said, "Oh, this team is still mature and it's immature." I think he used that strong word, immature. I think during, I forget which game, you could probably help me out, where they were just up and they were just kind of like lollygagging and just having fun, and they ended up blowing the game. And then he fired that off, immature. Now he's saying they're mature.
It might have been the second Memphis game about a week and a half or so. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think Hector, as a kid, say they were feeling themselves, and then like they were really feeling themselves, and they ended up blowing a game that they had in hand. But now he's saying they're maturing, they're getting better. And look, they came out of the gate saying we're gonna win. Last season, the tank season, it's over. No, we want W's, and it didn't work out. And part of me thinks, maybe some decisions weren't smart. Maybe you don't start Sohan at point guard, and maybe there's a few more wins on the record right now. Maybe you don't let Wemby kind of feel himself out. Maybe you say, yeah, Wemby, we know you're the number one pick. You're our guy. But you know how you've been saying like you don't want to be pigeonholed? Yeah, you're going to be pigeonholed. You're number 5. Get in there right now. Do you think those are kind of some missteps along the way to the point where we're at now?
I don't know if it's a misstep. I see the Sohan thing this way. Look, it's obvious that it didn't work out, right?
Yeah,
that's obvious.
It did.
And so somebody might then say, well, yeah, then, dude, it didn't work out. Like, then it was a misstep. If it didn't work out, and Sohan, they pulled the plug on that about a month into the season, well, then it didn't work out. Come out and say that. The reason I don't know if it's a misstep is because, and all honesty, Jeff, I'm not just saying this to try to cover for them. I'm not trying to say this because I worship at the altar of Pop. I'm not saying, I'm saying this honestly. I get why they tried the Sohan at 1. I see it. I understand why they tried it. While they said, and the umbrella over which that exists is, I understand that they said that winning was going to be a priority, unlike last season. But that's kind of like saying, I'm going to try a little bit harder after I got an F. Of course you're going to try a little bit harder, but that doesn't mean you're going to go from an F to an A, on the grade scale. They knew that no matter with the current roster, they weren't going to be a serious Western Conference contender. So when they said they're going to win a lot more, well, I mean, it didn't take a whole lot more than, to win. What's winning a lot more than 21 games? Right. 31 games, right? 32. Right. If they would have won between 30 and 35 games, that would have been a lot more wins than last season, right? Because winning was more of a priority. That still, if you're lucky, puts you like maybe outside of the play-in, looking in. So because there was nothing big in terms of wins and losses at stake, I think I can see why they tried Jeremy at point guard. You look at his skill set, And it's easy for us to think now because we've gone through 74 games, not now counting the Warrior game that he missed. The first game he missed this season on Easter. He played 74 games. It's easy to forget now because he's played a full 74 this season. But put yourself back in the Jeremy mind in terms of the way you view and the way the Spurs viewed Jeremy Sohan mindset preseason, back in October, back in September. They were expecting huge things. They look at that skill set. They look at his abilities. They look at his size. They look at his passing chops, and they go, or his playmaking chops, maybe is a better way to put it, potentially.
Yeah.
And they go, what if that guy can be kind of that? So I understand, and again, it's easy to forget now because it's like, well, what have we seen this last season? Well, we know that now. We know that now. Last in September and October, all we're going off of is a rookie season that showed promise, that scored him saw 30, that saw him score 30 a couple times, that saw him make the Rising Stars game. At that point, all we're going off of that. So I see it. It's a project that didn't work out. Is Jeremy's game better for it? Probably.
I think so, yeah.
Probably. But it's hard for me to call it a misstep because I see what they were doing. It didn't work out. And at the end of the day, what did it truly cost them? If anything, and I don't say this to give them credit, but this is the reality of where the situation is going to fall. If anything, if you're going to miss the playoffs, and that includes making the play-in but not qualifying for the playoffs, you're going to miss it anyway. Wouldn't you rather be where they are now than potentially picking 11th or 12th?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they might be falling back to that middle of the pack. Not getting better, not getting worse. It's just like in the middle of the pack. But going back to the Sohan thing, also too, you got to think time period as well. Early in the season, Hector, you recall they were playing a big lineup. I mean, it was a big lineup. It was. I think they tried to
along with Sohan. Yeah.
Yeah. They did Collins with Wemby and then you would even hear other teammates like the second unit guys say, yeah, we see what they're trying to do. And I forget, there was a player, I don't remember, it's been a while, where they said, yeah, have you seen the size of that starting unit? It may have been Malachi. But so I understand they want to try out a big unit, and to do that, they needed to find somebody who could fit that mold. And as you hit on the nail right now with Sohan running PG. But as far as if this is what could have been if things get going, yeah, it's like you mentioned. I do agree it's a double-edged sword because they're not out of the woods yet as far as the rebuild plan. So even if they came out strong, that you impact the draft lottery. Like, I'm not saying they're tanking or anything, but that is a factor in a rebuild. Acquiring talent via the draft because San Antonio doesn't really attract big name free agents. Maybe we would change that. We'll find out soon this offseason. But so you impact that. Maybe too much too soon for a young team. Pop loves, hitting on that rock, keep on hitting it. Also, Hector, I think that with Wemby, though, that was the only thing that I had an issue with, is that I understand that he had come in saying, like, yeah, I don't want to be pigeonholed, but my God, I mean, the numbers just show what he does at the 5 spot versus kind of a little bit of everything that he wanted to do. I think for me, I don't want to say misstep, but I think maybe they should have gone away from letting Wemby roam a bit and plugging him into that 5 spot sooner than later, because who knows, maybe he gets you 2 or 3 more wins if he started that position earlier in the season. What are your thoughts about them not plugging in Wemby immediately into that 5 spot?
So it's along the same lines as Sohan.
Okay.
And this is the best way I can summarize it is, at the end of the day, the result dictates how you describe the decision, right? Period. Especially in sports. Think about it this way, right? 4th and 1 at your own 36-yard line in football. You go for it and you make it. Good call. Genius call.
Yeah.
You go for it and you miss it. What a bonehead. You're at your own 35 or whatever I just said, and you missed it. Now the other team gets it at inside your own 35. What a dumb call. The result dictates how good the decision was. Okay. Now put that decision within the context of it's the 6th game of a season for a football team that ends up going 5-12 at the end of the year? Did it really matter in the end? You know, did them getting that first down or not getting it on fourth down, would it have really made a big dent or made a big change either way on, it was not the difference between 5-12 and 12-5. You weren't, it wasn't that big a drastic change or potentially a drastic change. To me, Sohan at point, Wemby at the 4 or at the 5 kind of goes under that same umbrella, where at the end of the day, what did it matter? Because if these guys started at their optimum and where they should have been, and all the right coaching decisions were made, at best, it's a 35 win team, to throw out a number that I alluded to earlier. What's the best case scenario that this team, all playing well, all of them, performing at a level in which the Spurs thought they might perform preseason, all of them being put in positions where they could thrive right away within their realities? What was the best case scenario? I think we can all. I think we can all be in an agreement. They weren't going to be a top 4 seed in the West, right? Even if what I just mentioned played out. So would they have been a top 8 team? Maybe. But most realistically, they probably would have been a team that's on the fringes of that play-in. So that's why when I look at Wemby starting at the 4 and Sohan starting at the 1, and other decisions that were made, so much made about, Trey, being best. And that's a direct result, right, of Sohan playing the 1. Things along those lines, the bad coaching decisions, the missteps that were made. What would the change? What would the difference have been at the end? And that's why I kind of lumped those two, the Sohan at the 1, the Wemby at the 4, kind of into that same kind of basket.
And also, too, you look at the current race for the play-in. You got the Warriors, they're like about 39, 40 wins. That's just to get into the play-in. That's how stacked. That's how stacked the West is. So that should give you an idea of how much better the Spurs needed to be just to compete, not get a spot, just to compete for a spot in the play-in, and that would have been a tall task.
I didn't mean to interrupt, Jeff, but just I think you just kind of made you added a layer to the point I was trying to make, and I think you did it better than I did. I kept using 35. The Warriors are sitting there at 39, and they're fighting for the play-in.
And they're fighting,
Do we see a scenario in which this team, at its best, in any kind of scenario with the realities of this roster, would have hit 39 wins? I don't.
Yeah. It would have been. I mean, even when we all scoffed at Vegas giving them 22.5 to start the season, win total, that is. We did a roundtable over at Ken's, and all of us on the roundtable were like, 22 wins. You're out of your mind, Vegas. What's wrong with you? I had them, flirting with 30-31. And even then, that would not have gotten them into the play-in right now as we speak. Hey, before we transition away, another interesting point that I want to bring up with you, Hector, is what Osman had to say after the Spurs lost to the Warriors recently. He says, I got the quote here. Let me just read it real fast. Quote, he's talking about, the team playing better. He says, quote, everybody has their own role, and now everybody understands as individuals what we have to do. So it seems to me that there may have been some chemistry issues. Not necessarily they don't get along, just figure things out amongst them on the court. And he's saying like it pretty much took a whole season for them to figure out, okay, I'm Shetty Osman. That's where you like to be stationed, Devin Vassell for your passes. Oh, that's where Wemby likes to float around. Oh, Trey, you want me to go here? Is he to set me up here? It seems to be that, at least according to Osman, and basically what he told the media session, is that now they understand individually how to work together.
I think that's a direct result of once Wemby got a sense of where he likes, and the Spurs saw where they can use him most effectively or most common, given he's a rookie and he was 19 for the better part of the season, and now he's 20. I think there's a direct correlation there. I think now that first peg is kind of settled in, now you can get the other pegs to work around. And I think that goes to Jetty's comment as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, there you have it. Some thoughts about what could have been this season and what could have maybe tripped that up. throughout the season. When we get back, we're going to discuss you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans. What are y'all talking about over at the YouTube page? We're going to be doing that and more right here on Locked On Spurs with Hector Ledesma. Make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. Hey, I want to talk to you about Game Time. You want to go to gametime.co right now, everybody. Look, they got the best ticketing services in the business. Basically, look, you've ever had a frustrating time trying to get tickets, and that buying experience is just so frustrating. Look, you couldn't find those last minute deals. Seats weren't good enough. Look, the Game Time erases all that, gets away all the headaches you need. Game Time is now an authorized ticket market of MLB, Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. They got killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from receipts, lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Look, they got it all there. You can pick out specific games or matchups that you'd love to attend. They got high profile events. You can see those good deals I've been talking about for the games. Look, the experience of buying MLB tickets shouldn't be difficult. That's why Game Time is here to help you with that. Again, flash deals, zone deals, last minute tickets, views from your seat in every venue, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. What more do you need? You want to go to gametime.co right now. Those all-in prices, you want to toggle when you get to the website, gametime.co, and that'll show you the total up front. So there's no surprise fees at checkout. Hey, the lowest price guarantee, your Game Time people, the fine folks there, will credit you up to 110% of the difference if you find a price lower than what Game Time offers. Game Time ticket coverage, again, the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app right now. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. And download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Hector Ledesma. By the way, during the break, I found out Hector told me he has the biggest biceps in San Antonio. So congratulations, Hector. Way to go.
That's fake. That's fake news. That's an April Fool's Day, right?
That's the April Fool's. Yeah,
that's
that's the April one. Yeah, that's the play. He is a contributor for Ballys. He is a contributor for Ballys Sports, and also a contributor and Spurs beat writer for Clutch Points. Make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. Do it right now because you don't want him to wrap those big arms around you and just like crush you, for not following him on X. So, way to go, Hector. You give Mayor Ron a run for his money, right? In the gym, right?
No, I don't. No, I don't, dude. Not at all. Not at all. April Fools again.
Okay. All right. Hey, it's time to talk about you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans, and y'all are leaving a lot of comments on the YouTube page. Kudos. We appreciate that. As always, there's just so many. And I wish that I had myself and Hector had time to go through all of them, but we really can't. So we picked out two just for you guys. Hector kind of got a little heads up on what we're going to talk about. So here we go. The first comment is from Luis Cesar Vargas, Hector. He says, the Spurs need a rim protector, not a rookie point guard. We should acquire a guard via free agency or trade for a veteran floor general. Thank you, Luis Cesar, for that comment. What do you think about that? That this fan feels no, maybe point guard should be secondary. We just need a rim protector, even though they got Wemby on the roster. What are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, you can. It's always great to have multiple rim protectors, right? But not at the expense of the other needs the team has. The team needs guys. Somebody who can direct the offense and get Wemby in spots is necessary. That's vital for this team. But so is just scoring ability. Being able to get your shot whenever you want. Now, if the Spurs can find that kind of a guy who combines those two, that's the perfect pick. And I know folks are. It depends. To me, the guy who you look at out of this draft and you go, that's the guy who, in college, the numbers aren't huge, but you can see how that game's going to translate to the NBA. And the NBA, he can be a whoa type guy. To me, that's Rob Dillingham. He's the closest one in this draft that could fit that kind of description. Other than that, though, you got, you hear Topic, linked to the Spurs a lot, just
Which
simply because
and Topic stock is cooling off a lot.
it's cooling off. You heard it a lot
Yeah.
more earlier. You hear SAR. You hear a lot of different things because they're point guards, and that's key. Like, you do want to be able to put Wemby in good spots, but as a rookie, that is going to be the part of said point guard's game that's going to be the most raw. Is he's not going to come in with just this understanding of the NBA game. Like, he's going to be a rookie, so you're going to rely on his skill set and his abilities, and just a lot, to extend his raw talent in terms of making the right plays and getting you in the right spots and getting buckets. But I would say overall, like, the long way of answering the question, I would say getting either a point guard or somebody who can score in a multitude of ways. Can get his shot off whenever he wants. And I know those guys don't grow on trees, but those are the guys that are priorities for the Spurs more so than a rim protector.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I
wish
they already have a fantastic. They already have a guy who's going to protect the rim better than maybe anybody in league history. They've already got him in the fold for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and then they also got another big body as well, Zach Collins, who's also, he does a decent job at that as well. But yeah, I was going to ask, when I just kind of give an example for the fan who left the comment there. Obviously, I wish the Spurs could. I mean, I hope the Spurs were able to swing a deal for this guy. But when I think of the type of point guard I would like to see paired up, a veteran point guard with Wemby, is a Jalen Brunson in that ilk. Of that style. And obviously, it ain't going to happen. I don't think the Knicks will ever part with him. But if they can discover that type of player, not necessarily in that mold, but completely, but that can, as Hector, you mentioned,
Tyrese Maxey, if you can make like moves. I know a lot of folks talk about Trae Young, and that name's on the radar. And there's the whole, sticking with the whole Hawks theme. There's always the bring back DeJounte chorus, but Tyrese Maxey to me is a guy too. Like, you look at him and the potential of pairing him with Wemby, it fits.
Yeah. And but circling back to Topic, excuse me, is his stock is really cooled off. I think he injured that he cannot make a shot. Like, that's like the biggest. I mean, he's a great playmaker and distributor, young, raw, but that's his stock has been kind of dropping. I think what really hurt him too is the injuries that he's been going through as well. And look, it is a draft. Many say it's not that great. But there's some who feel like it can be decent depending on who gets the number one pick and how it falls out. So this is going to be an interesting draft. See what the Spurs do with it. By the way, before we go to our next comment, what do you think? Would you be okay if the Spurs were to trade out and amass more assets, or trade down to amass more assets? Yes. Maybe use that pick just to flip for a veteran player.
Use it and add it to other assets, and maybe a couple guys on the roster to get someone who you think can help you right now. Absolutely. I think that's probably truthfully, if we have another conversation, that's probably, I think, given the strength or lack of, number one type guys in this draft that we project out, right? Like, we don't know for sure, obviously.
Right.
But given those realities, I would venture to say they're probably better off packaging it, seeing what they can get for it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. All right, the next question.
Especially if they get the Raptors pick too, it makes it that much stronger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then not to mention the picks are already sitting on as we speak, so they can really make some damage in a good way to rebuild this roster and push it back to the top of the NBA mountain. All right, the next comment is from Jay Haley. Okay, Hector, sometimes people pick very long handles. So here we go. J Haley 010100. Okay, maybe that's some sort of code there that we don't know about. But anyway, he says we need to keep Vassell, Johnson, Wemby, Sohan, and Osman for shooting. We need a PG. We talked about that, and 3-and-D guys, and then a couple of guys to protect the paint and rebound. Interesting. He's thinking a common thread with fans right now: paint protection and rim protection. That's it. They don't have to be all-stars. Our PG situation is terrible and inconsistent. So there you go. Thank you, Jay Haley, for that comment. Again, another fan talking about rim and paint protection and rebounding. Again, guys, the Spurs have Wemby. Don't be like the Spurs for the first start of the season where they forgot there's a player on at 7'5". No, he's there. But the notion of Hector, of keeping Vassell, Johnson, Wemby, Sohan, and Osman for shooting. Obviously, Wemby will be in uniform. Vassell is strengthening that direction. But, this roster could look different next season, Hector.
I think it will look a lot different.
Yeah.
I don't think we don't know ultimately what's going to happen with the roster, right? Because even if they try to move certain guys but they don't get good deals, they're not going to make a trade just to make a trade, right? Like you're not going to get rid of, Keldon Johnson, for example. Keldon's averaging between 16 and 18 points per game this season. Like, why would you take that off your roster just simply because you need to make a move? Like they're not interested in making moves just for the sake of making moves. They need to make moves to get better. So if Keldon's on the market, but they don't get anything of value, or anything that's going to help them, then why make that move? All that being said, I think if you bring back all the guys that Jay alluded to, then you're basically bringing back the same team. Like all you're adding, all you're changing is
you're running the back. Yeah,
your ancillary parts. They're not going to do that. I know folks have kind of mentioned or scoffed that it's the Spurs. They're not going to make big moves. They're gonna take swings. They're going to look at let me rephrase that. They're gonna want to take swings. They're going to assess. They're going to see what's smart. Again, they're not going to make moves just to make moves, but they are going to shape this roster now that they see what Wemby. They've had a year with Wemby and hadn't get comfortable and into NBA life and all that stuff, and he's gotten a year better. The pace at which he's progressing, they're gonna look to make moves now. They want to capitalize on everything every year they possibly can while you have Victor Wembanyama in the fold.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I look at what Jay Haley had to say here. Keeping Osman, maybe not. He's a player, veteran. Maybe in his stage of his career, he says, what? It was great helping you guys out, but maybe I gotta chase playoff run or something here.
For what it's worth, he told us after practice after shoot around on Friday, he'd be interested in coming back again.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Okay, cool.
Again, what else is he gonna say, right? If asked, would you be interested in being back? He's not gonna say right there and then while he's in a Spurs uniform, no, I'm not. I'm not gonna come back.
Now, I'll sure love to join those Nuggets. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Exactly. But he did express interest, and he seems to be like the kind of piece that fits, around here.
Yeah, exactly. And Keldon seems to be, very embedded into the fiber of the community in San Antonio. But he is one of the better trade chips on the Spurs current roster. That contract is friendly. He provide a contender or a playoff team great value. I think that's a compliment for Keldon. If that were to happen and if a power team in the NBA would want him, that's good. Look at Derek White right now. Boston wanted him bad. Right. They gave up a lot, for the Spurs to the Spurs to get him, and look at him, he's in a better situation now. So, but personally, I would love to see Keldon stay, just for what he's done for the San Antonio community, and he carried the mantle as the guy in that bridge, before Wemby. And he did a phenomenal job, and Team USA accolades and whatnot. But just brace yourself, everybody. This roster may look a lot different. And that's it. Thank y'all for leaving those comments. We appreciate it as always. We gotta let Hector go. He has business to handle. Hey, Hector, what's going on in your neck of the woods with Ballys Sports and Clutch Points?
Well, only 2 weeks left in the season for Spurs broadcast, so we'll see what happens there, and then Clutch Points. Continuing, stories and updates on the Spurs as they wrap up, Wemby's rookie year.
Absolutely. I like he says Wemby's rookie year, not the Spurs season.
Right.
Wemby's rookie year. But all in all, make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. You want to do that right now. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow. More Spurs talk as the season winds down. So for Hector Ledesma, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.